Hi, and welcome to my podcast. I'm Janine Plesh. I created this podcast as a means of self-expression, to share with others some of the insights, wisdom, practices, stories, and people who have inspired me on my journey as a yoga teacher, practitioner, and evolving human being. My vision of the world is one of a conscious world, where all people understand that suffering is optional, and that who we are is abundant, free, and ever-expanding joy. With that said, let's begin. Hi everyone, thanks for joining. Today I'm inspired by an email that I received from one of the members of a gym that I used to work at long ago, about 15 years ago. It was the first gym that I worked at, and I think at that time I was going through a lot of emotional drama. I had just moved out of the nest to live on my own. I was in an unhealthy romantic relationship, and I struggled a lot with anxiety and depression, although undiagnosed, but still was seeing a psychologist to deal with some of the side effects of a lot of the depression and anxiety that I was experiencing in that time. As part of, I guess, what happens in that time, that was in my early 20s, and psychologically, I know that it's a time where, we're looking to find and figure out what our identity is. So it's natural that in our early 20s, we'll have perhaps some growing pains, especially emotionally, as we look and try to find and figure out who we are. I think that's part of the game, and my studies in psychology have told me that around that time everybody else is doing the same thing as well, one way or another. But I received this email, and it reminded me, it kind of brought me back to that time, and I remembered, and this is why I wanted to do this podcast, I remembered how important at that time it was for me to be surrounded by people who valued who I was, and to put myself also in an environment that would nurture my evolution, my growth. And not only evolution and growth in any random direction, but evolution and growth in the direction that I wanted to go into. Now, of course, at that time, I didn't know. I was just looking for a job. But the choice that I did, the things that I did know was, one, I knew that what I was experiencing in terms of like unhealthy relationships, low self-esteem, and depression, anxiety, I knew that was not me. There was something very deep inside of me, and maybe it's thanks to my mother or my coach, who are very strong women, and who embodied for me what it means to be strong and independent. But yet there was, so thankfully I did have a head on my shoulders, but there was something inside of me that was saying, okay, this anxiety, this depression, this drama that you're experiencing, this is not you. This is not you. The real you is still inside, and is wanting to open and to get out and to express and to be happy. So I had this deep yearning, this deep longing, but I didn't know how to access it. Thinking back at my journey in this time, I I think that because I had this sense that this was not me, that there was something deeper inside of me that had not yet revealed itself. I felt in a way like I was fighting, but I was fighting towards finding peace. I was fighting towards finding peace. But I didn't know what or where that peace was. I knew it was inside of me, but I didn't know how to get it. So there I was looking for a job. And because I was a figure skating coach and I was already coaching figure skating and I was already in that kind of industry, I knew that I wanted to be able to do that kind of like off the ice as well. I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to continue training people. That was where I felt like I excelled. I felt like, I can do that well. And so I had applied to a couple places, but when I walked into this one particular gym, which is Curves, which is a gym for women in NDG on St. Jacques, I believe now it's closed, but it was such like a random place to have a gym, in my opinion. Like when I walked, like it was in that area, it's such an industrial area. Or at least to me, maybe the people who live there don't see it that way. But it was such an industrial area that it was like, okay, I'll go and try this place, because I had applied to a couple of places and seen a couple of locations and wasn't super impressed. And so I was like, oh, well, I'll just go in and what do I have to lose, Anyways, I walked in and the owner, she's like shining bright, she's just like beaming light of sunshine in this, little building that from the outside looks like a hole in the wall, kind of thing. But you walk in and it's beautiful inside, and there was a fireplace, a place that sells fireplaces next door. And you walk into the gym and it's just like bright. There's windows. You have like the owner was just like beaming light. And then she tells me that she's Portuguese. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm Portuguese as well, And I just felt like, even because I had just stepped out and I had just started, I had just moved out of my mother's place. And I felt like, wow, I moved out from my mom's place, but here I am now kind of moving in with another Portuguese woman, like another mama. And of course I didn't realize it at the time, but now I realize that that's exactly what it was. It was like I needed that connection to my roots as well, So of course I wanted to work there, and luckily they wanted me to work there. So awesome. I started working there and I met so many brilliant women, and, not your average woman. These women are like no bullshit women, it's like they say it like it is. They don't dance around. And they were most of them were, because I worked during the day. So I'd have a lot of women that were coming in either on their lunch hours. So they were like business women, entrepreneurs. There was also, I'd have a lot of women who were retired. And, they've kind of like, they come in with this wisdom. And it was just so amazing. Like I'm thinking back on it now, and I'm just so amazed at how privileged I was to be able to be in this environment with them, especially in the state that I was in, and with the needs that I had, the need to like crack that shell, or not that shell, but like to open that space that was inside of me calling for my attention. I didn't know that what I needed was to be surrounded by these women. I needed to be surrounded by people who valued me. And not only that, but who valued themselves. I think there's an important distinction there. It's like I want more that people value themselves than they value me, right? If you value yourself, then through your example, I will learn how to value myself. And usually people who value themselves, they see the value in others, right? So it's kind of like it goes together. And I think this is my main message of this podcast. It's just that, we need to put ourselves in environments that will really nurture us and that will show us our value. And for me, it was being in this environment with these women who are coming in with like such wisdom and knowledge, such life experience as well. And not only that, but that they're willing, they're willing to listen to what I have to say. Little Janine, they're listening to what I'm saying, and and at that time, actually, I hadn't started teaching yoga yet, but near the end of me working at that gym, now it's been, a couple years that I've been working there, and then I did my teacher training. I immersed myself in a 1 month, very intensive teacher training in Mexico. And it was, I think, a big part of my healing journey, my self-nurturing journey. And once I came back from that, I felt strong enough to end my relationship and my unhealthy relationship and learn how to really stand in my own power. And the women at the gym, they were so interested because I was gone away for 1 month. So they were really interested in learning about what I learned. And then I asked my boss, I said, well, the gym closes at 8. Can I use the space after the gym closes and teach a yoga class? And she was all for it. And so I actually ended up teaching my very first class with these women, and they would bring their partners to the class. A couple of them brought their partners. And so in this space, in this environment, this nurturing environment supported by these wonderful women who valued not only themselves, but also saw my value, they were coming to my yoga class. And how incredible is that, to sit in the seat of the teacher for me, was like, I was a beginner in this whole yoga thing. But to be welcomed, I could sit here and cry about it right now, like just from joy and happiness. I really feel that part of myself, that was yearning for my attention. I feel that now opening, that part of me is so open. It's like nobody's business, And it's all because I decided to put myself in an environment that ended up nurturing me, And for me, it was intuitive. I don't think that I did not know that that's what that environment would be. I walked in and I knew that it felt good. And so I stayed there. And for some of us, we're going to walk into places and we might feel that it's right, and it might not end up right. So I think that it takes sometimes practice to train our intuition to be able to really connect to what it is. What is it that's really calling me inside? What is that yearning? And to connect with that when we make our choices. You know, when we decide what are the types of people that are going to be in my life? What are the types of people that I want to surround myself with? What are the types of environments that I want to put myself in? And it could extend to more than that. It could be like, what are the types of movies or programs that I want to watch? Are those things nurturing that deep yearning inside of me? What are the foods I want to eat? The drinks that I want to drink? Do those things nurture that yearning inside? Do those things nurture that part of me that is crying for my attention, crying to break free, asking for me to give it a voice, to give it some expression? I am very grateful and feel so blessed that this happened spontaneously for me. And yet, I had already chosen the battle. You know, I had already chosen to fight for my peace. I didn't know how I was going to find it, but I did choose. I said, okay, I need to fight for my peace. And that's why I ended up doing a teacher training. That's why I ended up learning about meditation to calm my anxiety. That's why I continued to work at Curves. But what I did not expect is how much I needed the nurturing. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize how much those women impact in my life. And if you're one of the women listening to this, thank you so much. I am so filled with gratitude to have known you, to have been in your presence, to have spoken to you, to have learned about your story. I needed that in my life. And I did not realize until several weeks ago, looking back on my journey, right? Looking back on, wow, that's how far I've come. Realizing how important it was for me to be in an environment that would nurture me, that would embrace me. Literally, I stepped into that hole in the wall and I was embraced with acceptance, with love, with wisdom, with knowledge, and with experience. And that's so invaluable. How do you put a dollar amount on that? You know, it's so priceless, that gift. And to be able to surround yourself with people who have similar goals as you, or who are, for me, it was like the fact that those women were, what was important was that they were standing in their own power. And I don't know, they probably had, everybody has their ups and downs. And I'm sure not everybody that I met had super duper self-esteem, but they definitely, I feel, had more than I did. And in listening to their stories, in listening to people who mirror who we want to be in life, we learn. And I was just soaking that in. I was just like drinking it, because who we surround ourselves with, that's who we will absorb. Those are the stories, those are the behaviors that we will absorb. So if we're around people who are, doing fuck all with their lives, and we want to do something with our lives, then we're learning what not to do, right? Learning what not to do doesn't give us any more information about what we should be doing or what we can do. So, hearing these ladies' stories about how they overcame obstacles, how they learned to, and they were just sharing their stories. They weren't trying to be like inspirational or trying to be a guru or anything, but they were just sharing their stories. But there I was, unknowingly absorbing all of this. And looking back, I realized just how much I absorbed because, there's this big, aura, or there's this big aura of healing that I could see that happened at that time. I am so grateful. I'm so grateful. And my message to everybody is just, life will perhaps, if you're as lucky as I was, I do believe in those spontaneous moments of healing and where life just puts us exactly where we need to be. But if there's the feeling that it's not doing that, then we can do that for ourselves. We know that it works when life does it for us. It also works when we choose it, to put ourselves in environments that will nurture us, nurture and support our healing. And when we surround ourselves with people who reflect the values and the qualities that we as well want to embody. Thanks for listening to this podcast. I'd love to hear from you. Please share below, click the like button, and subscribe to my channel for more videos and podcasts just like this one. Until next time, breathe and be well. Namaste.